Okay, so we are live. Welcome everybody. This is our second weekly chat. This week we have Phil, who was on with us last week. Phil, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
there. Hello,
you're just not going
everyone.
to say anything, it won't pop up. So Phil's with us again. We've got Pink, Mr. Pink from last time as well.
Uh,
Pink now has a webcam.
Webcam.
And we also have Rachel.
Hi.
So there's the four of us this week. So basically, if you're seeing this live, awesome. If you are watching this back and you want to try and find this a little bit easier, if you can go on Facebook and search for Wargamer Online Community as a page or a group, whichever one, you can follow us on there and you'll get all of our links so that you can join a little bit easier the next time. The other thing is if you can share it to people, any wargaming groups or any friends that you think would be interested in this sort of stuff, that would help us out massively. And obviously if you can subscribe on YouTube, you'll get all of the updates as soon as they come live. So that's it. Right, so this week we've got some different topics. They're all scrolling along the bottom of the screen at the moment. We're going to begin with what we've done in the last week, really. So we'll start with Pink, because he's still working on his.
I've still got the same thing, guys. I'm doing the base coats on my 20 Blood Reavers, so should be done by the end of the week, and we'll have some photos up on the site next week, hopefully.
So he's still on base coat. So you got washes soon, maybe?
Yeah, but that's super quick. Once you get the base colours down, you're pretty much done. That's 90% of the work.
Yeah, throw wash at it and that's it. Okay, that's nice and quick then. So we'll go to Phil. So we have done some videos. I'm going to try and pop these up and see how they look.
Okay.
So it's probably going to come in at a random point. So get ready. Da, da, da. There we go. That's my favourite one. This is the Shrike that I loved from last week.
Okay, so yes, I did show the Strike last week. Since then, I've been working on many more Tyranids, basically, and it's all. Some of them were part complete, some of them were still in the box, and some of them were pretty much painted as of about a year ago, where we had a big push to try and get this sort of Tyranid army painted in a style we liked. But over the last sort of week or so, that has been essentially a re-scheming of that. So using things like Minotaur ghost tints and iridescent paints to sort of make them far more gribbly than they previously were. So much to the annoyance of the rest of the guys, I have been building and painting entire armies worth of models in about 3 or 4 days. But pretty much getting there, very happy with it. Particularly the Strikes, you know, they're a Codex model, but they're not obviously available in the Codex. So, or rather, not available as a model, sorry. So it's nice to do a little bit of custom work. And to be honest, it's inspired me probably to make some more custom gribbles for the my Mortalis board that we're working on at the moment as well. So look forward to some custom little Tyranid beasties to attack everyone as they're walking around the Zone Mortalis board with their power marine lists that they're all working on at the moment.
You say
power. How are we doing, Sam?
There we go, back to the favourite Strike. They look really good anyway. I like the gribbliness and I like the green as well, because before it was mainly black with the grey. There wasn't as much to them, but just by chucking on some of that glossy ghost tints, especially this one, the Red Terror stands out massively with the lighting on it.
Yeah, I mean, unashamedly, they're airbrushed, so quite a lot of airbrush work going into those.
Yeah.
You know, and not a hell of a lot of hand painting, to be honest. Most of it, if anything, is just washing and the odd little edge highlight and things like that. But again, when you've got a horde army like that, you really just want to get as much done as possible, as quick as possible, unless it's your main army, in which case you can lavish them with love, with hours and hours of wet blending and the rest.
Yeah, the iridescent paint on the carapace stands out. It just looks like a beetle's carapace. They're the Minotaur range, aren't they?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
can you paint them on with a brush, or would it just be an airbrush job?
I think you could get them on with a brush. I think you'd have to kind of almost take an approach similar to washes. You'd have to do thin layers, because what would tend to happen is the iridescent is a bit like a metallic, and it's in a very sort of viscous liquid, so it would flow into the recesses. I think you'd find the iridescent flowing in if you're not putting an even coat on.
Yeah.
But I think you could do it. I think you just need to layer 2 or 3 layers up, and it would build up then, and it would work.
That's fair enough.
Saying that the iridescents are actually a badger paint, but they're from their remote control vehicle range. So they're not actually from the Minotaur range, which is the modeller's range. So it's actually for remote control cars and things like that.
Nice.
But all works in the airbrush.
Right, so that was your stuff. I'm going to put up mine quickly. Mine spin around a little bit quicker at the minute, so you can't see them too well. But this is the chaplain that I've made from Alexis Pollux, and he's just had some bits chucked onto him. I'll wait for it to come around again because it's a lot quicker. This one's my Diabolist, who has been made from the Betrayal at Calth Captain. And then I've just got a normal tactical support squad. These have all got flamers. And the character, or the sergeant of the squad's just kind of holding it to one side. They're quite nice, quick to do, and the script work on them was quite decent as well. Done 5 Gal Vorback. These were amazing models. They look like just stunning. The amount of detail that's on these, I'd probably do another 5 if I could get some different conversions on them or something. And he's my favourite because he's the shortest guy. Yeah.
And he is noticeably shorter than the others.
Tiny.
He's like a dwarf compared to the rest of us. It's hilarious.
But there's so much detail on them. And I just love how there's all like flesh breaking out of the armour all over in different places. And because every single model is different, they're not boring to paint. You know, like sometimes you do 10 or 20 or 30 tactical marines in one go. You don't notice any sort of drag, even though they're quite big 5 models. It was a joy to paint them, so I'm quite happy with how they turned out.
Interesting choice of rotation direction there, Sam. Counterclockwise. I mean, what's your thinking behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you set that up, and I just went with it. You know, I wasn't going to complain too much, but you know, that's fine. That's it. So, I mean, I'm really happy with the characters as well. They're quite bog standard, slapped together. They look fine. So that's 750 points. We're going to use those in the Mine Mortalis games as soon as possible. We'll probably do them against your Tyranids, can't we?
Oh yes,
yes. You can get set on fire. My flamers will work for that. Okay, so we'll remove the videos for that. We're back to
Sam,
film.
what page was it that you put your models up on? Because you had quite a few nice comments about all the script work you'd done and stuff like that. Was that the
Facebook
Warhammer community?
No, that was the 40k for grown-ups page. But that was doing the tattoos. You can't see them too well on those spinny videos, but I tried using GW Black Ink, the old stuff, and it did come out very inky rather than a tattoo. So with the second guy, the chaplain that I've done, I mixed in a little bit of the previous skin colour into the black ink and tried to make it look like it had faded, like it had blended a little bit more. So I was happy with it, but it's still a lot of work.
Oh, fair enough. They came out really well.
Really good.
Thank you. Right, so that's weekly hobby update. Rachel hasn't got a weekly hobby update because you were going to go and play some 40k, weren't you, yesterday?
Yeah, but I was ill, which kind of sucked.
So it didn't happen.
Yeah, so I've got no update, unfortunately.
But next week, maybe 40k, you've got your Grey Knights, you could do a game with them, or maybe your Seraphon might get done. Hint, hint, Phil, you look at hints.
So you've not really explained this yet, but Rachel sort of just getting into the hobby, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I love playing the games. I used to play Fantasy, was it 8th edition?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I played that, and then threw my teddies out the pram when Age of Sigmar came in. And it took me a few months to get back into it. Tried a game using Seraphon, and now I'm back all over it again. So Phil's going to paint up my army for me, because I don't do any of the painting. And then we're going to kick that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a joint effort on the Seraphon, isn't it? I'm going to lay some base colours down and all the rest with the airbrush, and then I think Sam's going to do a little bit of work with the edge highlighting. But I think Rachel, maybe you could get involved in some basing, definitely, to start with.
Don't say that. Because her words, like when I said you're going to have to paint something at some point down the line, it was, I'll just dip him. I'll throw my paint at the model and we'll see what colour it comes out. Which was very similar. That's very similar to the paint scheme that she asked you to do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting in terms of the spectrum of gamers because Rachel definitely sits on like not so bothered about the modelling, not so bothered about the kind of painting side of it, but ultra competitive when it comes to the actual game. So
Yeah,
the
I'd
amount
say
of
that's
sort of
fair.
thinking that goes into your lists, what's the most optimal units, you're there, you're crunching the numbers. It's great.
Mad and annoying. I don't know. We're getting some weird flickering at the minute. I don't know if it's between your webcam or something. I don't know. It keeps going black.
Mine.
The quality isn't amazing, but you know, we might record some of these rather than
Sorry.
doing so many live ones. We might do some recorded shows and then put them up on YouTube so that you can watch them. And that way, the quality should be a lot better than the live stuff. To be fair, you probably just listen to us rather than watch any of the imagery that's on the screen. Anyway, so we're going to go on to the first question. So it was, how do you build Age of Sigmar army lists? So we'll begin with Rachel on this one. So how do you build your Age of Sigmar army list, Rachel?
So I start with the heroes. I look at which hero I want. So with my Seraphon army, I was quite excited to use Croak as soon as possible. Then look at which ones go quite well with them. So, for example, Engine of the Gods in the Seraphon army, you get an extra boost. Essentially, you can roll an extra dice, and so sticking him next to Croak seemed like a good idea. And then I just filled it up with core.
Bare minimum core. Like we did a 1,000-point list, and I think it was Croak, a Bastiladon, and then 2 bog standard unit of Skinks just to get the minimum battle line in the list there. So always scraping on the core, aren't you?
Yeah, basically. Although I do quite like the Saurus Guard, to be fair. I think they're actually worth putting in there. And I have tried a couple of lists where basically I get extra Saurus Guard in there. It's probably the only time I've ever put more core in there than I actually need.
But didn't they benefit your Croak model as well?
I thought they did. I got confused with the rules. Pink kindly showed me otherwise. Basically, I thought it was super broken. So bearing in mind that Croak has this rule where you go on his bravery instead of him actually having wounds. And so I thought that actually by having the Saurus Guard next to him, he essentially got like a 2-up save and his bravery increased. And I was thinking, that's amazing. Why would you not do that? But no, apparently it's the Saurus Guard that get the buff. But it's still good.
And you would have carried on doing it that
Steve
way.
Steve is on the chat, just saying he can, as a past opponent of Rachel's, he can at least agree that she is indeed very competitive. So I think this is going to be a thing that's in there.
Awesome.
And we've also got Mr. Cragham saying Croak for the win. Croak for every single game that Rachel plays, I think, is probably more appropriate. For
so far.
Cool. Right, after that filth, we'll move on to how Pink makes an army list.
Just a different type of filth.
Wonderful.
No, so when it was back in Age of Sigmar, I was kind of building an army more for just the models I liked. So I started with the sort of Khorne Bloodbound stuff, but really liked the idea of a very cavalry heavy list. So I had like Knights, Marauders, Varangard, that sort of thing. But it's changed a bit with the way that the General's Handbook come out. I've had to think a little bit more about how the games are actually going to play.
Yeah.
So that's why I've brought in the Blood Reavers as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So you've got to think more about, because some of the games you have to have at least like 5 models to hold objectives. So it makes some of those armies, if you go too elite, cough Rachel, then you can struggle a little bit to hold the objectives. But it depends if you want to go more fluff or you want to go more gameplay, really.
Depends if you want to win games or if you want to cast Meteor.
Yeah, and then win games.
Always cast Meteor.
Disgusting.
But no, I think it's always worth having one really big centerpiece model if you can.
Yeah.
It's just a really good opportunity to get some great painting out and really sort of helps you build a sort of a theme around your army as well. So at the moment, I'm working on Scarbrand.
Yeah, it's a really nice model. The Chaos stuff in particular has got so many good bits and pieces. Like Archaon came out, and that was just a stunning model. But you've still got the old stuff. What was there's a dual kit with like not a lion or a dog thing. He's like leaning forwards with one massive claw. That's my
Do you
massive
think
claw
the
impression.
Slaughter Brute and the Vortex Beast?
Yes, yeah. So I don't really like the Vortex thing, but the Slaughter Brute, that's a nice looking model. And I was tempted to do like a Fenrir looking creature out of that and just covering it in green stuff and making it a furry little wolf. Didn't bother in the end because it would require a lot of green stuff, but
Ah, you should do that.
well, I painted it white like Khaleesi.
Yeah, have a little puppy running along the field.
Never
A
mind.
ginormous puppy.
Very well. Okay, Phil, do you are you filthy or do you make your army list in a different fashion?
Oh, yeah, we're King Fluff, basically, I think is the best way of describing it. I'm not great at building an army just based on its competitive element, I have to say. So for me, if I don't really like the model, I'll struggle to kind of include it into my army. So liking the model is a big deal. Although recently, I don't think there's much that Games Workshop have released that isn't likable in one way or another. I think they're really hitting it out of the park with the models now, which of course, I think you've got that double whammy of a really tasty model that you want to build and paint and possibly convert, and they're great in the game. So there's a lot of tempting models out there nowadays. But certainly for me, from a start, I like a balanced list. I don't like sinking too many points into one model. I certainly don't like sort of 50% of my list, sinking into one model or one unit even, and so I think in that respect I kind of avoid the Death Stars and those kind of things because you just sink too many points, and then I think tactically it ends up being just about essentially that unit and supporting that unit. I like to kind of go to a game with 2 or 3 options, and in a competitive environment that doesn't always work. I accept that, because what can happen sometimes is you just don't have that hard hitting unit that can really remove things when you need them to. So, and I've found that quite a few times with Tyranids. I've shown up to a game with Tyranids and realised, for instance, I can't take out armor 13, and I'm facing a whole bunch of tanks and things like that. In terms of Age of Sigmar, though, I had to say again, it was based on models. I really, really liked the Sylvaneth models. The starter boxes dictated to a degree what was in my army because, you've got the tree lords and all the rest, so that was quite nice making those up. And at the end of the day, I think slightly flying in the face of what I said earlier, that did come down to sort of adding Alariel into the army, but again, just based on the model. Absolutely stunning model. Wasn't that interested in that model until we were up at Warhammer World one weekend. Saw it in the cabinet. It was about 4 times the size I expected it to be, and just instantly wanted to paint it, basically. So I had a lot of fun with that.
She's huge as well, isn't she? The legs on her, like proper.
Oh, proper rugby player. She's amazing.
Rugby. Kickboxing.
Yeah. Kickboxing,
she probably
rugby,
just kicks the trees down.
We
need a new path in the forest. That's all right. I'll handle this. Boom.
But like I say, even then, I think of the Age of Sigmar games, I've played 2 with Alariel in it. I think just again because you have to 600 odd points you have to sink into it. So unless it's a decent sized game, sort of 2,000 points or more, I just feel that's too much represented in one model.
Well, Mr. Cragham's put, it's all about a beautiful looking army in my opinion. If your army looks cool, who cares if you win or lose, you die in style. So that's very much the same way that you pick in it. You pick cool looking units, paint them really nice style, and then chuck them on the board, and it doesn't matter what happens. So I think it's more about who you're playing against. So if you're going to go to a tournament, expect to go and play against the same like-minded players. You could go to a tournament with a rubbish list, but it looks really cool, and have a good game against somebody who's got the same attitude. But if you go in with a fluffy army against some filth and get battered, it's not going to be fun for either of you. So I think that's the only thing that you've got to consider.
And that's
Sorry, go on, Pink.
I was just going to say, that's very true just for all the games you play. As long as you understand what the other person wants to get out of it, that's fine. And even sometimes, like if I play Luke now and I know he wants to bring a fully optimized list, I'll do the same. But other times I might bring something else that's just either more thematic or just something that I wanted to paint.
I thought
But
Luke always brings a fluffy list.
yeah, Luke always brings the fluffy list.
Yeah, we have to tell him to put some more like powerful units in there sometimes, don't we?
Yeah, because he'll find that one sentence in one book somewhere that says that this legion once had a bike somewhere that they borrowed, and now suddenly his whole bike company is fluffy and fitting.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, the way
Okay.
that I build my army list is I like to go with the fluff, but then I get drawn into the filth at the same time. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. So I know, like, if I'm playing against Rachel, she's quite happy to lose the game as long as she's casting meteors. So if I build a list which is quite well rounded and has a mixture of stuff, then I'll probably win the game. She'll probably destroy half my stuff, but I'll win. So it depends on whether I'm really bothered about winning or just having a good game. So
We did actually have a great game, didn't we, Sam? Where you were playing. Is it your orcs?
yes, my lovely
And you had
orcs.
this.
I was really happy.
So Sam has this massive war bus, and it's just running down the field, and it never actually got to croak because it just kept getting hit by meteors every turn. And you can just imagine this orc massive bus just running down, and just the meteors are falling out of the sky. It's not even seen croak yet. He doesn't know where these meteors are coming from.
It was really annoying because everything else got forwards, didn't they? Like all the Ard boys, a big massive horde of orcs ran forwards, and the mega boss kept rolling badly for his movement, so he just crawled up the field and then got hit every single step. And then you killed him in the end, didn't you? He got hit like 3 times by a meteor and then died. And then I had reserves for some reason. I don't know whether it was a scenario or something, but my second war boss turned up, and then you started battering him with meteors as well. So that was
Yeah, it's a good
entertaining.
game.
It was good for you. I think I won, so it's fine. Kill what you want. So yeah, the other thing is a lot of Age of Sigmar scenarios have different ways of winning. Like Pink was saying, you can win. Some scenarios you need heroes, need objectives. Sometimes you need wounds. Sometimes you need the amount of more models than the enemy. So taking a list which can do a bit of everything. So maybe have 2 to 3 heroes. Maybe have a big elite unit and also a horde unit. So you've got a bit elements of everything. So that whichever scenario you roll, you've got a good chance of having a good go at the game, rather than just playing, filthy croak. That's it.
I feel that one was aimed at you, Rachel.
And
Yeah,
you,
no, I
and,
get
and you, Pink. I mean, there's a lot of cavalry in your list. We'll do some games with them. We need to do some films, and we'll just see them run over. It's going to be like Mad Max in Age of Sigmar. You just running over iron jaws.
Well, I like that when Age of Sigmar came out, everyone complained it was just about pushing your models into the middle. And then actually my Khorne Bloodbound army is just basically that.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But-
we'll see. We'll see. I hope it's quite tactically involved. I hope it also doesn't suck after I've spent like forever painting these models.
Oh man, did nobody tell you they're terrible?
Madness. Okay, so we're going to models now. Now we're talking about models again. So our next topic is the new Stormcast Eternal stuff. So we can't get pictures up, but we will. We've all looked at them, so we can at least discuss what we think about them. So you've got the Vanguard Paladors, which are like demigryphs on steroids. They look amazing. And you've also got the Lord Aquila, which is the character version of them. So what do you guys think?
I love these. I'm really tempted to do a Stormcast army after I finish the Khorne stuff, which will probably be next year. But I think that they look gorgeous. Although every single release they have, it does make me feel like they're more Space Marines. But that's not a bad thing. I love my Space Marines as well. But they've got bolt pistols now,
Yeah.
which I thought was good. But I don't know if you've seen the Lord Aquila. If you see him without his helmet on, he actually looks a little bit elvish as well.
Yeah.
I think you can get away with him being like a dark elf hero or something like that, because that Griff charge looks pretty mean as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love the models as well. I like how somebody called them a chocobo, and I like that. I like the fact that they're quite dynamic looking and they're all in different poses. The older cavalry models, when I look at the demigryphs now, they're almost the same price. You pay like £33.50 for 3 demigryphs, or you pay £35 for 3 of these new paladors, and the difference is just massive. I'd be tempted, if I was going to be doing demigryphs, I'd probably buy these and then chuck some normal humans on the back of them somehow anyway, and run them as demigryphs. just because they're so
Oh,
much nicer.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see the points for these, to see how they come out. Like how small an army could you get away with? Because I know there's a 90 quid bundle, which is 2 units and then the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see how far that gets you towards 1,000 points, because I'm really tempted by that.
Even the cloaks and things, the way that the guys on the back of them are sitting, some of them are hunched forward, some of them are leaning back. They're just, there's so much to them. And when you compare them to the dragons, are they dragons or drakes? The other Stormcast stuff,
Yeah, they're Drakes.
whatever they
The
are.
Drakes, aren't they? Yeah.
They look so. They're more blocky in comparison. They obviously look tankier and bulkier. They've got a different style to them, but I just prefer the dynamic look of these ones. So I'm quite happy with them. I wouldn't go as far as starting an army, but yeah.
For me, it's just the pace in some of the models. They just look like they're running at full pelt, you know, and you just get that real sense of movement in them that I think sometimes with cavalry you kind of don't. You get the kind of splayed legs and just as if they're stationary or rearing, and just to see some of them at sort of full pelt run is just really nice. And you know, to me, that's taking advantage of the the new 3D sculpting techniques as well, so they can balance the model well. And and it's they're very slight on the leg, and I mean, and that goes to say for the whole miniature really is that they've it feels like they've slimmed a lot of things off. They tend to, again, some of the old cavalry models had the horses had these ginormous hips that were about 8 foot wide and all the rest, and it just everything felt really blocky. Whereas these things just look like they should do, like they can fly across the battlefield at 100 miles an hour and just wipe everyone out in between. So wow, for me, definitely.
Well,
Yeah,
you'll get to see my Marauder Horsemen next week, and you'll see how stationary they look in comparison. So the horses look really animate, and then, like you said, the guys look like they're just sat on them, just chilling, like they're on the bus or something.
Well, they are, because in Age of Sigmar and Old Fantasy, the horses, the cavalry, used to do more than the guys on the back. So it makes sense that the horses are dynamic and the riders are just chilling.
Mr. Cragham's just mentioned the Marauder Horsemen are the worst for us, so we'll have to have a look at this. How much time have you spent on those, Pink?
Oh no, I didn't spend much at all. I think actually no, that's a lie. I think because I got 10 of them. Then they might have been 30 or 40 quid. Wow, that's terrible. Saying it back to myself now.
They still look.
Yeah,
I like the look of the
preferred
horses.
I wanted to keep my cavalry theme, but I wanted to get something with a bit more numbers than Chaos Knights. Because they're 200 points for 5. So that's why.
Rachel, what do you think about these models? I know you've had a brief look.
Yeah, no, I actually love them, but I like anything that's sort of griffin looking or, that kind of sort of mystical creature kind of thing. So yeah, these are a definite win for me.
Good. You don't want an army doing there, do you?
I'm going to wait for Phil to spray all of my Seraphim. I'm going to wait to do the highlights. And then I'll tell you that I want this army instead.
Okay, until something else comes out in between.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll go out and buy the gold paint now.
Yeah. Brilliant. Cool. So that's wrapped that one. There's not too many models this week, so it's a bit of a quick one. So we'll go on to the next question, which is how to keep your hobby mojo. So, who wants to go first with this one? I'm going to let one of you just.
I'll go with that one.
Go on then, Phil.
Oh, well, yeah, hobby mojo. I suppose what we mean by that is just keeping it up, really, isn't it? Because we can all lose away. Models stop getting painted, games stop getting played. So how do you keep your interest and all the rest? How does that keep going? So motivational posters is one message from Steve there. So I'm not sure motivational posters would work, but it's not a bad idea. For me, I think it's a fine balance between too many projects and too few projects. And there is a fine balance. I think if I'm working on one thing and if I'm focused on one thing, I'll throw a whole bunch of energy at it and it's great, but at some point I will just burn out, and rather than come to a complete halt and stop doing anything, I think the best thing to do is to just recognize that point where you're losing the motivation and just treat yourself to something different. And there's the challenge now of too many or too more, because the risk is do you ever go back to that one that you left? I mean, that's the challenge. I recently spent sort of a couple of weeks, about a month ago, just clearing that backlog of half-finished projects that I'm, ashamed to say some of them had sat on the shelf for over a year, half-finished because I'd moved on. So I think you do have to go back, tidy up after yourself, but just try and keep variety, different paint schemes, different painting techniques, challenge yourself with new techniques, wet blending, or dry brush techniques, or using glazers. Just try something different as well. So don't just use the same techniques over and over again. Try and expand your kind of hobby skills. Conversions are another one for me as well. I always like to sort of pick a model up, kind of work your way through what you can change about it, what you can make different.
There's a ton of different ways,
and I think
you can inspire yourself
to
keep going.
So it's variety, the spice of life, but not too much spice. I think that's my mojo tip.
Your video is terrible today, Phil.
Sorry,
it's as if your feed is from outer space.
I think it is. I'm on one of those new discovered planets that NASA found.
I'm really excited about that. Not that it's going to do anything in our lifetime, but there's 7 more planets to potentially destroy now, isn't there?
That's a good way of looking at it.
Sorry,
positive as always.
move to populate and then destroy. Keeping my hobby mojo going. I think mine's very similar. At the minute, I've just finished a bunch of the word bearers. They're done now, so I'm actually pretty pumped to get on to the next project. Kind of, because it's going to be Rachel's army, so it's not going to be that exciting. But after that, I can move on to the next one. So keep wrapping up projects. I think for me keeps me going, because it got to a point where I had 4 or 5 armies on at the same time, and you'd think, oh, I'm going to put an hour aside tonight and do some painting. And you wouldn't do anything. You'd get none of the pile shifted whatsoever. So it was difficult to keep going back to it. One thing that keeps me, or makes it easier for me to sit and paint and do building or whatever, is to have some sort of audio on in the background as well, because the time just flies by. So whether that be audio books from Black Library or YouTube videos or podcasts or anything, just sticking something, or a lot of the time just sitting on Google Hangout and just talking rubbish to people. Having that in the background just passes the time, so you can get loads done. So that encourages me to get stuff done. Pink?
Yeah, no, fair, I'll go next. So I think really for me, actually, it's more trying to do a bit of the narrative side of things. So I love army list building and trying to come up with a new theme for stuff. What it inevitably means is that I normally then want to buy armies that will never actually see the table. And actually, coming on to one of the new releases that we didn't go over, there's going to be a new expansion to Silver Tower.
Yeah.
But the difference with this one is that one person's a dungeon master, so it brings it in to be a little bit different. And I'm actually really excited about that, because I did a little bit of the DMing before when we had a little bit of a group going on. And I'm quite excited to try and do a little bit for this. Yeah. So we'll see them all adapted a bit for the different armies that we've actually got. But no, I think that'd be really good. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, we've lost Phil. Phil will probably be back soon. I forgot to say about that as well, because like you say, you did the DMing for us on those games, and they were brilliant, weren't they? But you get, for pre-ordering or ordering it through Games Workshop's website, you get a little screen, don't you? Have you seen that?
No, I've not seen this at all.
Yeah, you get a free Dungeon Master screen to stick up. So that's pretty cool.
That's only on the pre-order, isn't it?
It might be just the pre-order,
right?
yeah.
This week's... Yeah, I think it was this week only.
Cragham's put battle reports for me, which in cause made me do my own for my channel. Is what keeps me making and painting, is so that I can gain more. Yeah, I mean that's what we've done a lot for us, isn't it? Knowing that we're going to do battle reports and we're going to be filming all the different types of games, we need the armies, we need them looking nice and getting them painted. And one thing actually, you were saying about doing the narrative stuff. What was the builder army thing? Not Tale of Four Gamers, because they're amazing anyway. They're brilliant for
Path to Glory.
Path to Glory, yeah. They've started doing new ones of those, haven't they? For like Stormcast and some others.
Yeah, I think they brought that. I wasn't too much of a fan of the whole random nature of it. Like you could end up just buying a random unit, but if you knew within your group that you could just kind of add a unit on each month or something like that, I think that could be quite good.
I quite like the randomness of that. I think taking some of the list building out of it and just saying you're going to roll and see what you get. The game is based on dice rolls at the end of the day, isn't it? And I know you can base your list around certain things, but just having that random factor of roll a dice, I'm getting a set of models there that I would never buy, and actually getting them built and painted, you might end up using them. And because everything is useful in Sigmar, you can actually do that quite easily.
Yeah, that's true. It shouldn't be so one-sided or anything. So
yeah. Rachel, how do you keep your hobby mojo?
have someone else do it.
Yes, exactly. No, for me, it's about playing games. So if I play a load of games all in one go, and I get beat, then I will try a new list, and then I will get beat again, and then I'll make a new list.
So that keeps you going. Keep playing games and keep getting beat.
Basically, yeah.
Quality. Rachel, what is best in life? Your enemy's crush for you.
But no, it does. I mean, when we went over to Phil's, we had like a few games, didn't we? And then I think we must have had 3 games in one day. And then the next morning I got up, so ready for another game then. I've got a new list ready.
We just need somebody to be available to play games all the time, because I could do maybe a couple and then I'm ready to stop. But you could just keep playing games for a week, really, couldn't you?
Yeah, until I win.
Until you win. Yeah. And then you go, right, that's it, I win, we'll end it there.
I'm going to have to try and get some games in this week then.
Yeah, I think we should. It'd be good.
I need to take you on with my Sylvaneth, maybe, I think.
Oh, your sniper's nasty.
Been in the box for too long.
Yeah, you did the. I quite like the way that Age of Sigmar plays. You can just do a quick 1,000 points. We'll have to properly try and get those 1,000 points done for your H, and then you can do some one-on-one games and try out different lists.
Yeah, that'd be good. What I've essentially tasked you guys with at the minute is building me about 3,000 points so I can have almost every list imaginable.
This is the thing as well. It's not like when I do a list, I'll generally pick all the units I want, do the list, know exactly in advance how it's going to fit in my KR case, because that's my favourite part, is getting them all fitting neatly in a case, and then turning up with everything sorted. Rachel, on the other hand, needs 2 double KR cases to fit 3,000 or 4,000 points worth of units, so she can pick and choose every single game and switch things in and out, which is fine.
Great.
No. This is fine if you were doing your own painting and building, but that side of the hobby is not even thought about. It's just
hobbying's really easy. I don't know why you guys lose your mojo.
It's because we've got our own armies, and then we've got you going, can you do some Grey Knights for me, please? I've got your custodians. Actually, my next bunch of projects is your Seraphon, your custodians, and then to my Space Wolves.
I'm glad that you've got your priorities right.
Brilliant. Okay. The other one as well, actually, is keeping doing hobby, is being in a group. Like, I find that we've got our Facebook groups and things like that, and just being able to post up regular pictures of what you're working on, and if you want to ask something or you've got an idea that you think might work or might not, you can post it up on a Facebook page and you can get feedback. And there's tons of public pages all over Facebook, like the 40k for grown-ups. There's the one, Games in Theory, which we're on, Phil. Heavy Metal page, we were looking at that today, and it's disgusting what people end up doing. That ends up putting me down a little bit, how good the quality is. But you're also, I mean, your own local group. If you've got a local group of gamers, or anybody who goes to your local games workshop store or an independent, you've probably got a little Facebook group you can join in and then chat away, and it'll keep you going.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. It's very nature. It's a community game, isn't it? So engage with the community, get inspired by people around you. You know, copy their work. If you're struggling for ideas, just have a go at it yourself and then expand upon it. And all of that stuff just keeps you motivated, doesn't it? It's always good to see great work. And it's interesting. It rarely has a demotivating effect on me. If I see some amazing work, it's not like I just go, I don't really have that. Pardon?
say, 'cause it's normally yours if you see amazing work on these.
Not really, mate, but thank you.
That's good. Awesome. Okay, so we've only got one more topic left, but I think there's some other stuff we can talk about anyway. But this one will be, what would your ideal new army be? So this isn't necessarily just picking an army. I'd love to start Space Marines. It's what is not in the range of Age of Sigmar or 40k or even a completely different game that you play, whether it be Malifaux or something else. What sort of game, what sort of army would you want in style or the way that it plays or anything? So I'll start because I know Phil definitely has heard it enough. But I want a samurai army.
Really, Sam?
Yes, I
Samurai army.
I want a samurai army, and I want it in Age of Sigmar because I tried to do some ogre samurai conversions years ago and I failed. Well, I got bored after doing the first one, so I'd like Games Workshop to make some for me or anybody else. And I don't care if they're ogre sized, I don't care if they're human or elves, I'll buy them. So I just want really cool looking samurai armour, loads of really nice curved blades and things like that, so I can paint them. And they can be rubbish on the table, I really don't care. So that's mine, that's my army.
Do you think you're going to get that wish fulfilled, Sam? Because
No,
I mean,
no,
they're moving
but
away,
I've said
aren't they,
it.
from recognisable stuff? You think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether games. All I'm thinking is it probably something that maybe you should actually do your conversion on? Go back to your ogres. Now you've got a few more years under the belt of hobby
Maybe not
mojo
ogres.
that you.
Maybe a smaller model, maybe just humans. The other one is Warlord Games. They're releasing a samurai. I don't know if it's a board game or it's going to be as big as like Bolt Action or any of those other games. I've not looked into it enough, but Warlord Games have definitely got some samurai miniatures coming out, so I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that. What is going on in the chat? Cragger, tell them about the Bloodletter army. Tell them, Sam. What was the Bloodletter army? Oh.
Is this some re-roll story? Is it?
I've re-rolled more
That doesn't
times
sound like Sam.
in the last year, I think, than I have in my life. Yeah, I'm going to ignore the chat because it's just bullying now. Phil, what would your new ideal army be?
My ideal army. It already exists inside the 40k canon, so it's the Hrud. I really would love to see that army go into production. So I'm on the Skaven side of the Hrud, so they're kind of rodenty looking dudes with sort of scurrying around and just messing with time and slowly invading planets over a millennia and all that kind of stuff. And I like the idea of the aesthetic. I like the idea of the story behind them. There is another version of the Hrud that goes back ages, where they're these into the first edition, I think, where they're kind of these tentacle, sort of animals with sort of prehensile limbs, that just have no joint as such, sort of just tentacles. But I'm not too keen on that one. So yeah, for me, I'd like to see essentially Skaven in 40k. And I know they avoid doing that, but
you were going to convert. You were going to convert them because I gave you a bunch of, was it Plague Skaven things?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of Plague Skaven in a box for conversion. And I kind of figured, to a degree, I think if you combine some of the Mechanicum aesthetic with the Plague Skaven, there's probably a project somewhere in there. At least maybe do 1 or 2 units, I think, and you could always proxy them either inside Mechanicum because they've got quite a lot of arcane weaponry that would kind of add to it. Or even, strangely enough, I thought of them as a Necron proxy. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but the idea that they're kind of messing around with time and coming back, rather than the Necrons reanimating as such, if you like.
Yeah,
something along those.
I think the Skitarii guys, they've got perfect weapons, haven't they? The long, I don't know if they're called long rifles, the very ornate looking old style weapons. Stick them on some Skaven, give them some more hoods if they haven't got any already, and you're good.
You just made it sound like a 10-minute job.
I'll sort them
I
for
might
you.
go and do that. Yeah, thanks, Sam. Can you fit them in between the army backlog you've got there?
Rachel's army backlog.
You've
Yeah,
been
sure.
described as a bit of a butterfly in the chat there, Sam, for flustering from one army to the other. Let's not have you doing my army as
Arc
well,
rifles. No, they weren't arc rifles. Which ones were they? There's pink. What are they? You know. They're not Jezzail looking.
I don't
They're
know.
really cool. They've got long neck looking rifles. They look
I
like
know the ones you
sniper
mean, though.
rifles.
It's like the galvanic something.
Galvanic, that's it. Galvanic rifles. You did know. I think that's them
There
anyway.
you
It's
go.
probably not.
Of course he knows. Of course he knows.
What were you saying?
Nothing.
You're just bullying me. See, I just turned that off. I'm not going to even reply. Pink, yeah. What's your ideal army, Pink?
I hate to say it makes me sound massively uncreative, but I can't think of anything in honesty. Over the last year or so, Games Workshop have really started nailing it. I mean, in terms of there's a few things obviously they could update for Age of Sigmar. I'd quite like them to redo the sort of the elves and the dark elves particularly.
Yeah.
Sort of, I guess, in terms of 40k, in a similar vein, I'd like to see them expand out on the Dark Eldar side of range, because I think the Eldars had a lot of attention, and perhaps the Dark Eldar's been neglected a bit. But in terms of themes, they've kind of done everything, especially now with stuff like the Gene Stealer cults, because I was thinking maybe sort of a rogue AI, especially because Mechanicum and the whole Imperium's very against AI. I thought it could be quite interesting. But effectively, it just ends up becoming that's a Necron race.
Yeah.
So they've kind of nailed it, to be honest. I think they've just got to catch up in Age of Sigmar.
I think it'd be interesting in the 40k front if they looked at them all the sort of Necromunda, the kind of city dweller gang type stuff, which they could release as a box set and have that as city and militia and those kind of things, and for some in-city fighting, which you see sort of less and less, don't you, on 40k at the moment. Most of the scenery is kind of ruins and stuff like that, and it's all but there are thousands and millions of planets out there with thriving cities on there, and I think it'd be interesting if they were kind of have a look in that direction. But I suppose from an aesthetic point of view, it doesn't quite fit that dark future, does it? If you've got a nice, bright, shiny city and a bunch of street gangs hanging around,
I think
I suppose it doesn't tie quite in, does it?
But you're right, they did, because at one point they did the larger miniatures, didn't they, for the Inquisitor series? If you remember, I can't remember what scale they were. But then effectively it meant you didn't have that many, and I guess Games Workshop's going to larger scale games. But I quite like the Necromunda sort of style, like you'd sort of develop a small gang and perhaps have a more narrative sort of like you're sort of developing that gang almost campaign style. And then you sort of add to it as you go along. I think that'd be quite a fun way of doing it.
There's nothing stopping us from doing that anyway. The Necromunda rules are out there. You can adapt it and you can come up with... we could probably do it for some sort of small campaign, some gang-based campaign where we can include things like Eldar and Dark Eldar. It probably won't make sense, but it doesn't matter. Maybe we could do Craft World Wars. Phil would love
I
that.
think you certainly could go with the Gene Stealer cult, couldn't you? That fits into that, doesn't it? The sort of the mines and all the rest. So you've got those guys maybe against street gangs, and it's the start of the Gene Stealer cult taking territory within a city, if you like, within a hive city or something, away from the gangs. So you've got this gang warfare versus some insidious Xenos race trying to take over the underground.
Well, you've got the mines, and the city will be painted soon, so we'll be able to do it.
Yes.
We can do all sorts with that. Yes. So we'll definitely aim to do that then. Rachel, are you still there?
Little hobby tip on sorry, I just want to say a quick hobby tip on painting cities. I needed a massive tub of Armageddon dust, so I painted a little bit on some card and went down to home base and got them to colour match it with a 2.5 litre tub of emulsion. So if you really need vast quantities of basing material in terms of the colour, then the Dulux range, they'll actually use a little spectrometer and scan the paint swash and mix some paint up for you. So a little hobby tip from today. I'm very pleased with myself.
I do love your little DIY tips, Phil, to be honest.
Well, our fence has fallen down because of how windy it was today. So if you want to come around and do some DIY... No, the fence fell down, and also the felt on the shed came off as well. So I've got to nail that back down again.
I'm just going to check the chat, actually, just to see if there's anything to do with fixing your fence.
No, there probably isn't. No. Anyway, let's get back to
wasn't one of the subjects.
Not my fence. Rachel.
Yeah.
What would you do as an army?
What do I like about an army?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it was fantasy, then...
Oh, you're doing two?
Yeah, I'd do fantasy and 40k.
Go on then.
Okay, so if it's fantasy, this one actually isn't that original, to be honest. Anyway, it's basically like better high elves. So like I used to love high elves, like. Well, no, 'cause I used to love like the dragons and the phoenixes and basically anything with wings and that shoots fire or magic or anything like that.
Ask me
But
to.
yeah, but you could like add like angels and things into that because you always had the problem they had to take some kind of like core, and it'd be cool if you could have like more sort of angely things or things shooting like fire bolts out of their hands or things like that. So that would be like my fantasy ideal.
Angels and
40k.
dragons and phoenixes.
Yeah, essentially anything like magic-y and wings and pretty.
That's quite broad. Okay, that's good. So you'll be happy with whatever they release then that's got wings or magic-y.
Yeah.
Nice.
And for 40k, I'd really like to see something like, I suppose a bit like Space Wolves, so like wolves, but a whole army of something like that. So something really like, again, pretty as opposed to like big heavy armor and things like that.
You can do a Space Wolf army, which is just wolves if you want.
I know, but then it's all one thing, isn't it?
You've just said you want an army of
Yeah, but-
wolves.
They did have.
things.
They do have those sort of beastmen kind of conscript, don't they, into the fluff of 40k, don't they? These sort of mutants, which are more like beastmen and stuff
Yeah, the
like
abhumans.
that.
I think
Abhumans,
it's
that's
just
the
a bit,
term
like,
I'm looking for.
Pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
hey,
pretty
you can have. Yeah, don't knock them. They're pretty in their own right.
Sam has
So you
been
need
liking
basically, Rachel, Tau. Tau are quite pretty, so maybe Tau's the army you're looking for, I think, in 40k.
Tower
Maybe.
fish.
He also can't cast spells.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Not your
Oh
sort
yeah,
of
good
army.
point. I've just failed completely in recommending an army there.
I think she wants the New Zealand acolytes. They're all massive ripped guys who can fire magic out their hands.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, but Phil's doing them.
Oh, I merely have a starter box. That means nothing at this stage.
It's cool. I'm happy with my Grey Knights. They just do magic and things, and it's cool.
Very good.
Let's face it, I've been painting them anyway, so why don't I paint these? We'll see where we go.
See how I feel at the end, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that was pretty straightforward. So we'll finish up fairly soon. We'll go on with what we're going to be doing next week. What are your plans next week? Pink. Actually, no. We may as well not bother with Pink because he's going to be doing base coating still.
For the rest of my life. No, so I want to get Scarbrand finished. I want to get these guys finished. And I want to get out a couple of Age of Sigmar games to kind of get more of a play test in. I want to kind of get a couple of games of Heresy in as well. So it might be a bit of a busy week. But next Wednesday, maybe, Phil, at yours?
Oh yes, no problem at all.
Today,
You could help again with the board.
like I did last time. Yeah. I just sat there and painted my Blood Reavers again.
I'll come and paint.
So I'm going to be working on. Guess what? I'm going to be working on the board. Last stages of it, which is really, really good. I am working on some Seraphim. Rachel will be pleased to know. So the base colours are down, so there's a bunch of work to do, sort of highlights and a few sort of ghost tints because we want quite a bright fluorescent look to that army. So they should be good. I have 180 gaunts that need repainting into the new scheme. That shouldn't take long. So maybe that's something you could help with, Pink. That'd be nice. I think through all of that, I think I'm going to have to start paying attention to some Thousand Suns at some point, aren't I?
30k or 40k?
30k.
Nice. Well, that means I've got to do my
I
wolves.
need to go pick that book up. Need to go have a good read through it and try and work it out. I'm semi-hesitant because, obviously the Thousand Sun models aren't really out yet, so that's going to take some thinking. I don't really like building my armies unless I've got an idea of that they fit well with the fluff and the backstory and stuff. And there's a few models that they're releasing for Thousand Suns that aren't out yet. But from what I understand with Heresy, you guys keep telling me you can't really go wrong if you just put a few units together to start with anyway, can you?
No, you need your tactical marines. You need your legionaries.
Yeah.
So I've got to get some more anyway for my wolves, because I'm going to do half of them with power swords or power weapons now as well. So I've got to get more of them. I'll probably rob as many power weapons as I can off people, because I've not got
I've got some.
so I've got to buy more of them now.
Well, you can do some sorcerers, mate, because you're going to need tons of them for that army.
Yeah, is it room priests or which?
So I meant for his Thousand Suns, but you've got all to work on as well.
Yeah, well, you can buy the 40k set as well, Phil. The set of 3 sorcerers, they're really nice.
They are very nice models. Again, that's Games Workshop just absolutely knocking it out of the park again, because they're just amazing. Stunning models.
And you could even use that Magnus model and just say, yeah, he freaked out a little early. I'm quite looking forward to. I think that's the thing. I'm struggling to get excited about my Thousand Suns army until the Primarch model's out. Once I see that Primarch model, and I know with a few photos floating around and all the rest, but when I say I like to see the Primarch model, what I mean is I'd like to own the Primarch model, and then I'll feel motivated, I think, to push on with that. Yeah, and you're doing them in a night anyway, so it won't be a problem.
Oh, there we go.
When are you doing Rust then, Sam?
Don't know. After the backlog, I'll treat myself to doing Rust, but I need to spend a lot of time on those wolves. I've just done another 15 infantry, and now I'll probably need to do at least another 30, just so I can do half and half with bolt guns and half with power weapons. So
yeah,
I'm probably going to have to look at those. I might even sell the ones that I've done and then just start again with the Mark III armour that I've got. Because I've got...
Oh, of course, because they were Mark IV before, weren't they?
Yeah, so I might sell those on eBay or wherever, or on some group, and get rid of them. And then I'll do Rust at the end of everything else. I've still got his Spartan to do, and I've still got 2 more Rhinos, but I'm going to leave the 30k for a little bit. My next army... So what I'm working on next week... Actually, I'm probably just going to work on Croak for next week.
That is a good choice, Sam.
Because we've got a bunch of videos that we're getting done for the website, so that should be up soon, hopefully next week or the week after. And I've got a bunch of videos that I need to edit for that, so I'm going to work on that for now, and then Croak will just be a side project in the evening, I think. And it will keep Rachel happy. Her favourite model will be finally finished.
He will look very sexy and amazing.
You what?
He will look amazing.
You better do. So what
It's
do you...
Phil
Phil's airbrushed the base coat on the stone and the skull on the top of his head. So that's the majority of the model done. I've just got to pick out some vines and do some layering and some washers. It's not difficult.
Nice.
Rachel.
Yeah, it's a nice model.
Yes.
What are you doing next week?
So if your Zone Mortalis board needs dipping, I could come and do that. Otherwise, I'll just play a game.
Okay.
I think we should get a game in. So I'll definitely make sure there's time for a game.
Well, we're also popping over.
I
think we're going to try and head to the new shop that's opening up near us on Saturday. Crescent Wargaming.
I've not heard about this at all. So where's that?
Whitnash.
Oh, okay, yeah. When are they opening?
So Saturday. So we were heading down. They've got tons of board games. They've got Warlord game stuff, Star Wars, X-Wing. They've got Warhammer. They've got room for tables as well, because the local club's moving there as well. So they're going to be doing it on a Saturday and Sunday and a Tuesday there. So there's going to be a load of stuff to have a look at. So
this sounds like a massive plug for them right now, but yeah, no, that sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing
we'll put a link on the page.
We'll put a link on the page. Yeah, the other thing is they've got so many different ranges of models that we can just have a look at, because I'm tempted to try a different range rather than just sticking to 40k and Sigmar. I might look into picking up some of the models just to paint and or maybe play some games with. I know Rachel loves the board games, so we could do things like Zombicide, and I could paint the models. But I'm thinking more of maybe one of the Warlord game ranges. I don't know.
Well, have you ever thought about X-Wing? Because a lot of people rave about that.
Yes, and we could do a lot of repainting and stuff on the ships as well. So be tempted by that. So that's it. Anybody else up to anything, or are we all good?
No, I'm all good. We got to our hour.
Awesome. So that's another hour done this week. Thank you everyone for watching who's live. Thank you if you're watching this back again. And as I said at the beginning, if you can like the video, if you can share it, and if you can subscribe to the channel, it will help it'll help everybody see it next time. And the more people that are on it, the more it will get spread. So that would be awesome. If you're not on the Facebook group, search for Wargamer Online Community and you can join the group, or you can search Wargamer Online and find the page and like us on there. And our website will be up within, at the minute we're looking 2 weeks, aren't we, Phil?
Yes, about 2 weeks.
Website will be up and running. We're going to have a ton of new content, and it'll be more than just these live chats. We'll also do pre-recorded sessions and discussions and other bits and pieces. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.